Welcome to my bewitching podcast, where I take you on a journey to initiate you into the mysteries and pleasures of all things magical and more. I'm Julie Nelson, Rich Witch, botanical perfumer, astrologer, and creator of the Fragrant Oracle. I'll discuss a myriad of topics passionately on women rising unapologetically, witchcraft, including spells, rituals, insightful astrology updates, and oracle card readings. I'll also introduce you to special guests who share their bountiful knowledge and experience in the art of witchcraft, the intuitive and healing arts, and being wildly unapologetic. Do you have something in your life externally or internally that is holding you back? This centered goddess is here to help you to release and let go so that you can move forward. You are being reminded that the past no longer exists. There is this present moment where you can look forward and move forward with conviction and excitement. Allow me to introduce you to frankincense. I bring the gift of spiritual purification. When feeling stagnant or stuck, use my power to cleanse your energy field, your mind and soul. In doing so, abundance has a clear path to flow forward and toward you with ease. I assist you with aligning to your highest vibration, magnetizing your own goddess essence. People are naturally drawn to you. Look for the abundance of opportunities that surround you. For now is a time to release that which is no longer serving. Allow the beauty of my essence of spirit to align and connect to you, to the angels, both here on earth and the realms of future possibility. My sacred efforts for you to work with. And remember, the power of your word is your wand. I am devoted to moving forward with an open heart and mind. I am grounded and connected. I am living with peace and joy. I am spiritually aligned to my highest good and the good of all. Hello again, and welcome to this week's Rich Witch podcast. This is Julie Nelson here, and today I am so grateful to have a beautiful witch pagan, Shé D'Montford. She is so much more than that, by the way. To get on here and guest with me and talk about things that we're passionate about. And I'm going to hand it over to Shé to introduce herself. And then our topic today is all about pagans and prosperity. And that sings to be. It just sounds perfect. So over to you, Shé.
Well, hi, Julie. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And I really admire the work that you do. So congratulations to you. You're doing a fabulous job. I really feel honored that you've invited me to be part of this. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's beautiful.
So who am I? I think a lot of people in the pagan will know me. I've been doing a lot within the pagan community for decades. In 2002, I was one of the people that actually pushed for witchcraft and paganism in Queensland to become legal. And we actually did that, would you believe it, not through human rights, but through business. We actually had a gentleman who I did some work for sometimes. He used to put on psychic fairs up here. And we had a situation where they actually did a police raid and they arrested a few of the psychics and the witches that were reading at a psychic fair. I mean, and then this day and age, you wouldn't think that would happen. And this is only like 21 years ago.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. I'm
And
lucky I never got arrested then.
yeah. And it was really interesting because one of the readers, she appeared in court, and she sat in the docks, and she said, "Oh, hello, Judge. How are you? I did a reading for you at the fair on the weekend, so in case dismissed, everybody out." But what happened? That made it possible for us to actually, for it to be legalized on the ground of fair trade practice, not on the grounds of human rights. So for many years we were just decriminalized, and now we've finally made legal. But we've always got to be, especially with this resurgence in fundamental right-wing policies, extreme Christian practices. It could reverse and need one flip it over the other side. And, we saw what happened in Melbourne during the lockdowns, things that you never think would happen.
Yeah, let's put it out there. It doesn't, because I find it difficult to keep quiet.
Yeah. So before all this happened, I'd been Queensland Business of the Year. I was one of the first people to open up one of those domestic service handyman companies. So we were on Today Tonight, A Current Affairs, 60 Minutes, all the radio programs. Very quickly, we had this huge business. Within a month, we went national, and within 2 months, we were international. So it was a whirlwind ride. A business, sometimes you can have a business that is too successful. And in the end, I started franchising and selling it off because it was too big. It was too big too quick. We didn't have the structure in place. It was really important, I found out through that little experience, to make sure you have structure set up for a business, especially if it's growing quickly. So I published 27 books. So I've got a publishing company now specializing alternative, witchy, psychological nonfiction works. So I'm always happy to help people get published.
Oh my gosh, we have to talk about this. I love that.
Yeah. And it's such a joy. Like I see so many of these new self-publishing company people out there preying on people, and I just do it. Like if I'm helping somebody, I look at what they need to get out, and put it together in a bracket that they can afford, and so that they feel that they've just paid a consultancy, not nothing where I end up with control of their work like that. So
that's what I love, because I self-published my own oracle deck. And which was a project that I had planted the seed 28 years ago, and I finally launched it last year. And the reason I did it through Kickstarter was so that I had control over it.
Good girl. Yeah, excellent. That's the way to go. I mean, a lot of authors don't even know that once you do publish something, whether it's self-published or published by somebody else, because you never know. Like Richard Bach, when he wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull, it was 10 years before it did anything, and he was barnstorming across the United States, and they couldn't find him to tell him he had $1 million in the bank.
Whoa.
So, yeah, he was still begging for money, so taking people for joyrides in planes. And he didn't know that he had $1 million in the bank. So it's a good idea to put your rights to your manuscript in your will for your relatives and people like that. People don't realize this is your work. This is your intellectual property. I'm very big on people's intellectual property, and they must protect it. They really must.
I love that. And also for my daughter, my oracle and my perfume, because I'm a botanical perfumer as well, this is a legacy I'm leaving for her, because she can sell my formulas.
Yes, absolutely.
And my oracle, and yeah,
like so many artists, unfortunately, don't become successful until after they pass. Right? And if it isn't like Marilyn Monroe, she didn't leave anything in her will to anybody. So her hairdresser ended up with the majority of her royalties because she was the one that she owed the most money to when she passed over. That's like a hundreds of millions of dollar empire that she never thought beyond. And she was an icon, So,
yes.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
I'm
so
glad you brought that up.
Always good to think about. Sorry, this conversation is going to take a life of its own.
It is, but I do want to get into your pagan and prosperity teachings. And yeah, I know. And I get, I always have questions pop up. So, but we're free flow. And I hope that you would love to come back and join us again so we can have many chats if you're open to it.
Oh, I'd love to. It'd be wonderful. I really do love the work that you're doing. I think it's great. I'm glad you're reaching so many people with this important message.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important.
The thing is with practitioners of magic, whether they call themselves witches, druids, whether they're Thelemites, any sort of ites at all, if it's working, then you should have freedom, right? And when you think of freedom, we always think of our rights and things like that, which is good. And we're pretty good with that here in Australia. But freedom really comes down to two basic things, right? One is the ability to be able to move and go anywhere that you need to go, right? And the other one is to have the ability to be able to financially support yourself, help other people, and be in control of your own life. If you're up to the eyeballs in debt, you are not in control of your own life. So, if you are a magical person, you should be looking at, do I really have a free life? Do I really have, is my magic paying off? Is all the effort that I'm putting into learning my magic working for me? Right. And if it isn't, then we need to change something. We need to look at some things that will make.
And I love that because freedom for several years has been my word, and it's really important to me, and being free to be me. And one of the things I did 12 years ago, actually, when I left my longtime partner, I got rid of any debts.
Absolutely.
I do not want to have debts. I do not have a credit card. I don't get caught up in that anymore because I don't want that hanging over me. And it's like a block, like a brick wall that you've got to constantly climb or try and break through. And I love that I've let that go.
Yes, no, I've got no debts in my life either. And once you do get free of debt, it is a freedom. You suddenly feel like this big weight has been lifted off your back. Yes. And you realize how much more your life has. So it's a very important thing to do. Have you ever discussed a wonderful book called The Richest Man in Babylon with your listeners?
No, I haven't.
You're aware of it?
Yes, I know the book. Yeah, I haven't fully read it, but it's one that I've picked up. And, I'm one of those people, I love to pick it up, open them up and read excerpts.
Yeah, and it's been around forever, but it is pagan prosperity principles. And, and it's written by, how this man starts off as a slave in Babylon and quickly ends up becoming the richest man in Babylon. Yes. And there's several principles in there. One is to be free of debt. So work and make sure that you are free of your debts, because your debts make you a slave, right? They enslave you. Yeah. And the other one is very, very simply, have a look at what you earn, and then anything you earn, tuck 10% away somewhere and forget about it for a while. And I made both of my sons read that book when they were young I paid them to do a book review on it. And
I love that.
Yeah, and both of my sons have done very well financially themselves. So, and they'd always, when they got some money, they always tuck some away. They wouldn't spend it all. So
my daughter's very, very good with her money too. She's actually better than I am. I'm good. I'm actually very good with it, but I just love how, she respects it and she honors it. And it's powerful because so many people don't.
Yeah, and it's a useful tool.
That's what it is.
I forget who it is. It might be, but it's an old pagan saying that money is a protection like wisdom. If you know stuff, if you're a wise person, you're protected, but money also protects you, so if you need some money quickly because, hey, you know, your kids have got into trouble or somebody's in hospital, or you need to get out of town fast, you've got the money to do that, you know.
Absolutely. It actually brings us freedom in
Yeah.
the way that you're right. I think of it as a tool, and
Mm.
it is the means to
Mm.
having what we need, or desire, whatever that might be. And as you said, whether it be an emergency or a holiday or whatever it is you want. Yeah. It's not here to control us, which
No.
for so many people, that's what happens, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a really big Christian programming, and I'm not going to pick. I know she probably got some Christian listeners, and I'm not picking on you, darling. I'm really not, but it's good to know what the philosophies were that in the like the 3rd century that started it. And really in the 3rd century, they wanted control. They decided that the papacy was going to control most of Europe and world, and in order to do that, they had to remove people with pockets of power that could oppose their theocratic monopoly. And the easiest way to do that was they instilled the feudal system, right? Took everybody back into the Dark Ages and made poverty a virtue, right? We really didn't have poverty as a virtue before that. But it's lasted for 2,000 years, this idea that money is the root of all evil and the god Mammon is, you know, bad and all those sorts of things. And it wasn't that way for thousands of years before the 3rd century CE.
Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly it's interesting to have a look at cultures, especially like I work in Asia a lot, where they don't have that sort of poverty consciousness. It's actually an honor to do well, you know, and you are honored and you're able to look after your family, and your family honors you, and other families honor you if you do very, very well. So
yes.
yeah.
And money is not evil. It's some people and how they use it is what the issue, the problem is. Absolutely.
And think about, I think most of your listeners are incredibly good people. And if they had the money, like if you won lotto tomorrow, you know, what good would you do? Most people usually say, I want to look after my family. You know, and you do think about the good you can do first. You know,
absolutely.
It's like electricity. You know, it is something that we should use and use wisely. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And as we should use magic wisely as well.
Oh, absolutely. The biggest secret, I think, with regard to changing that mindset from being in, you know, poverty consciousness, you know, and, you know, poverty being piety, is to really start appreciating. You know, I think appreciation is the key. If you've got gratitude for something. And I used to, in one of my workshops, tell people, you know, who got an electricity bill lately? And they'll put their hand up and go, you know, has it gone up? Yes, it has. And I go, aren't you lucky you've still got electricity in your house? You know, and it just changed that mindset straight away. So don't go into the whinge with them. You know, so many people at the moment, so many older people are switching their electricity off. And aren't you lucky you've still got electricity and you can still afford it?
Can I share something about that with you, which blew me away? I actually make sure that I make fortnightly payments to build up, you know, some money for my account, my bills when they come in. And I had one person, I live in a cold climate, right? I live in the Blue Mountains in New South Wales. In winter, it's freaking cold. And I kind of am much better with a spring, autumn climate. And I cannot do the cold. And I had somebody say, well, you should switch off, not use a heater and put blankets on. And I went, I don't fucking think so. I wouldn't be able to function properly, and it's like, no, I want my warmth so that I can be me, you know, and if I have to pay for that, I'll pay for it.
Yes,
I'm going to make myself suffer.
that's right. But when you look at what's happening in the United States at the moment, where the homeless people are going through a number of homeless people because
Here too.
we've got rampant, out of control inflation, not
Mhm.
like the First World War. And, we've only got 13% inflation. Rubbish. They're not putting the cost of a house and the cost of, petrol and things like that in there, not putting things like that. So, but during these times, and I've just done an article on how people actually made money during these rampant times of inflation, right? And it was by paying attention to your basic needs. So paying ahead, right, and keeping paid ahead is one great way to do it. So in the States, what people who haven't planned ahead are doing, they're actually just giving up their houses and they're walking to California because it's warm, so they don't freeze to death. So California's got these huge tent cities, which they're not putting on the news, but if you get on Facebook and alternative media, you can see these huge tent cities.
I have seen some.
Yeah. So, and if you don't want to be that way, you've just got to plan ahead.
You do, absolutely. Yeah.
And what they did, the people during this rampant inflation in several of these countries, like one was the United States during the Second World War, Germany. In recent times, we've had Yugoslavia. They had like 1 billion% inflation at one stage there. I actually had a $1 billion note from Yugoslavia that somebody gave me.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was, they had to do away with the currency, so it didn't, like the $1 billion note didn't reinflate. They actually had to reinvent their currency.
Wow.
But the people that did the best were the farmers, right? And also people who saw ahead and started planting their own food, right? So that they, it's the old ant and the grasshopper story. We've got rampant inflation. What do you eat the most of vegetable-wise? Put a pot, even if you're in a unit, put a pot on your veranda, put some tomatoes in it, put some cauliflower in it. What do you eat the most of?
Some herbs for flavour, absolutely. I used to live off the grid, and we grew our own vegetables and fruit. And where I'm living right now, my neighbours and I said, if you help me build it, and I've put a lot of my horse poop in there. They're going to top it up with compost and soil. And I said, I'll take care of all the growing of the veggies and that, because I've also got a horticultural background. And quite frankly, I don't like buying the crap that is available in the supermarkets. It's shocking. It is absolutely appalling, the state of some of the fruit and vegetables. I've actually stood with a manager, this was not that long ago, and asked them to take off all the kale on their shelf because it was beginning to go yellow. And I stood there till it was all taken off and put in a trolley, because I just think, how dare you expect people to buy that? And also that, like, how disrespectful. That was words, by the way.
Yeah, and kale, oh my goodness, grows so easy. It grows so easy. It's if you put seeds in, it's actually grasshopper resistant. It's
Great.
It's one of those vegetables that during the depression in the United States got people through. And in the United States, kale's actually still thought of as poor people food.
Oh, I
but
love kale.
I know, but during the depression here in Australia, it was chocos. Chocos got us through.
I love chocos. We used to have them. I grew up in New Zealand. We used to have choco vines, and I used to love them. And you can steam them and you can roast them, and
a little bit of white sauce, yummy.
Yeah.
And McDonald's makes apple pies out of them.
Yeah, well, they've often been used to replace pears as well.
Yeah. So, and this is a form of wealth, because when there is no food, people will trade anything with you for food, right? And we've decided, because we're in a community, like we're in a suburb at the moment. We're not on acreage, right? But we started a community garden because we don't want our neighbours bashing on our door demanding food, if it gets to that. So we are doing that as well. We've got a community compost and encouraging everybody, hey, here's a choker, grow some chokers, it rains passion fruits here. It's Queensland, but we've got them all over our hedges.
Absolutely. Like, get outside of the box and be creative. And when I lived in the Hunter, we had 40 acres. Well, 12 acres was arable and the rest was native bush, but we had some big gardens and everything grew so beautifully there, especially after we had the floods in 2007. But there was only 4 houses up where I lived in a little valley, and we had a creek through the property, so it was all very lush. And we all had our own microclimate, so we had gluts of different veggies, and we just used to swap, take them into the local shop and say, can't eat it. And people could just take it. And that's what being community is as well.
Yeah, but getting back to this wealth thing and being rich, I mean, my son used to come and collect my chocos here. And I said, what are you doing with all these chocos? It turned out that one of his mates at work was a new Australian, and chocos in his country where he came from were very rare. And so he made alcohol.
Oh, wow.
So my son was swapping chocos for alcohol. He done it. I mean, but even if you can't, like we take our passion fruits into our local coffee shop and we get free coffees. So they put them on there. They make cheesecakes out of them with all this beautiful, rich, fresh, sweet passion fruit. So it is a direct trade thing. But the other thing is, think about the amount of money that you're spending on your fruit and veggies at the moment. And if you're growing them, then you can use that wealth for something else.
Absolutely.
You can redirect that. It's a game that they've got us into thinking. And for goodness sakes, if we are witches, if we are magical, we should be in tune with the seasons and the cycles of nature. And we should know how to be supported by nature.
And eating seasonally is much better for our body physiologically as well. So eating what we grow.
Yeah. So, that's the basics. And moving into this rampant inflation, it's going to protect you. Like you'll be able to put that food money to use elsewhere, use on your heating, on your other things that you do want, and you'll be able to be grateful for those. But, there's something that happens when you grow something and you go outside and you pick it. There's no way that you cannot be grateful for it, and this gratitude happens again.
Yeah, there is no fruit and veggies out there unless, like, really when you taste your own, or like up in Nimbin, I used to go to the Nimbin markets every week. They'd pick, or cut the vegetables and that 4 o'clock that morning, and you would just get them. And when you pick them out of the garden, oh my gosh, they are just so delicious, and you actually feel the magic in them, the energy, they're so vitalized, that revitalizes us. It's beautiful, the energy from them too.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. The if you don't have your health, you have nothing. So you've got to focus on making sure that you take care of your health. If you eat junk food, 1, you're getting sicker, and 2, you're getting poorer because junk food is not cheap.
Absolutely. And a lot of because I've had to be there, I've been there, I have gone there, and some of the charities that give you food, they get from Coles and Woolworths. And honestly, I'm so disgusted in them because it's food that they usually give to pig farmers. And I feel like it's a humiliation for people to even accept that, but they're so desperate for food. And I just think, oh my goodness, like you're giving people food that really isn't even edible.
Yeah, but I think things are going to get tougher for the homeless, and for I know that there's
Mhm.
families that are doing it very, very tough, and they're not homeless. But
There's
it's
lots here too.
yeah, I mean, so even though that's not the best food, it's something,
It
and
is
people
something. You can
and
make
people,
soups and things out of it and
yeah.
utilize it that
But
way.
But if they start growing their own, they're going to give themselves much more power as well. And
Yeah.
really, for some of the fast, easy crops, you only have to wait, 5, 6 weeks. So it's a month and a half. And a month and a half, you can start to choose around for yourself. So,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
I
So,
agree.
so get a pot, put some seeds in it.
Mm.
Can't afford fertilizer. That's okay. Pee in a bucket, urea,
Yeah,
because most of the fertilizer is urea. Fill up the bucket with water and water it, and then the plant is
absolutely. Yeah,
also giving you exactly what the plant responds to that by going, oh, you need this nutrition. It's your best
yeah.
doctor. Here,
And
I'll
do a
make this.
compost. Do a compost. Even if you live in a unit, my daughter and her partner,
Mhm.
they compost.
Yeah, no, I got my
They live
dad
in
compost.
a unit.
Yeah, my dad used to live in a small unit, and he used to have one empty pot, and he had an upside down bucket with a lid on it, and he put his compost in on top of that, and then take the soil out of that pot and use other pots. And if
Yeah,
my pommy English dad can do that,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so yeah, so we can enrich ourselves in so many ways. We can enrich our health. We can enrich our wallets. We can enrich our families and look after them just by simply growing a bit of food for ourselves.
And that is taking our power back.
It certainly is, and giving you freedom, which is wealth. You know?
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. So what we've got to think about is that resentment kills prosperity. So the things that you are resentful about, have a look at and go, what can I do to change this? All right. Like you said, your electricity bill, no point resenting it. You want and need your electricity, pay it ahead. Great idea. And when you get ready to pay it ahead, go, wow, thank you so much. I really need this electricity. All right.
Yep.
But this planning ahead will help you remove that resentment. Right.
And communicating too. So don't be afraid to contact these companies and tell them you need help. If you don't ask, you don't receive. And
Yes.
again, it's being in your power,
Mhm.
because receiving is very, very powerful. It's not something to be ashamed of. Asking for help or asking for, a strategy, a plan to help you stay free. And as we said, that's wealthy
Yes, yes, yes.
and
And
healthy.
yeah, and banks and power companies at the moment, because power companies are scared. They know that things are shifting.
Mm,
They're very negotiable right now because they
they
know
are.
that if the alternative for them is not good. So you'll find power companies, gas companies, banks with mortgages, they're very negotiable. So
Yes.
don't see them as the enemy. Ring them up and go, hey guys, what's the strategy? Now, a lot of people don't know. All right. So we know that there is a push with government revenue raising at the moment with, giving fines and traffic lights and things like that,
Yeah.
red light and stuff like that. And there's a nasty little thing that's happening where if you don't, even though you might make a payment plan with that, if you don't stay on top of it, they charge interest at an enormous rate now. So there is a scheme whereby you can actually go and work in a whole lot of different programs and pay off your fine.
Yes, and I know this because when I first moved here, I got trapped and I was highly stressed.
Mm.
And I got two fines within a week in exactly the same spot where I thought I didn't know I was speeding. I thought I was on the speed limit.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned about that. And you can also do courses and they will use that as points, which
I know, it's amazing. I was so chuffed, so happy when I found out that it was available for people. I'm telling you. But you can pay off. I forget what it's called. I forget what this one's called. But you ring up the people who have the fine and say, I'm having difficulty. And yeah, you can either go and work for the Sallies for a couple of days.
yes.
You can go and do mentoring with children. you can go and do a course. Like you can go through the TAFE system or the university and do a course to pay off your fines.
And people
Which,
need to know this because they don't. And when I found out, I went, oh my God, that's amazing.
and that increases your wealth. Your value has just gone up. You have just, you've got an extra skill that you've been able to put on your resume that you've completed very recently at your TAFE.
Absolutely.
So make sure you do ring these people. Don't hide from it. Ask and just go, look, I'm having difficulty, right?
Yeah.
What systems have you got in place, right, to help me, right? And you will get on top of it. You don't want to be constantly behind it, though. The idea is to get in front and start building up your value, right?
Absolutely.
One good little way of realizing your value, right, I think, it takes us out of resentment, is assisting somebody who is home, right? And I do the Mind Body Spirit festivals and all that, and I actively seek a homeless person before I go into work, because it's an old pagan thing that if you help the homeless, especially in Greece, it was part of their hospitality, and in England, the parage. You don't know if you are being hospitable to the gods, right? The gods would often dress up as homeless people to test people and see if they were good people.
I love that.
So it's a really good luck thing. I always make sure I find a homeless person, give them a cup of coffee, take them into McDonald's sometimes and get them a cup of coffee and
love
just go.
That.
Yeah. I mean, down the road here, we've seen women that are homeless and living in the back of their car with the kids. So we'll go back down with a packet of sausages and, some blankets and pillows.
Yeah.
And it shows that it makes you feel less resentful, because you know that there are people that are worse off than you. And it makes you realize that you're actually in a good place.
Yes. And how beautiful is it, like the gratitude that they show and have is beautiful. Like it's good to do good, and it's good to feel good for doing good.
It is, but and it is good to do that for other people and be very magnanimous about it. But in the end, you're helping yourself as well.
Yes, of course.
You're getting yourself out of this resentment where all of your energy is spiraling down the plug hole. Because if your energy spirals down there, so will your money too. If you can find these reasons to be grateful, these reasons to be cheerful, you will find that your value starts to increase more and more. The superstitious idea that the gods bless you if you are generous to the poor and the homeless. It's a karmic principle, but it also works on the principle that you're changing your vibe.
Absolutely, raising our vibration, and then we become more magnetic as well to attract what we desire. And I'm very big on the receiving and giving cycle to keep it going around, which is really important. I just looked at the time. I can't believe we've been talking for nearly 45 minutes. So we have to do more of this if you're open to it. But we
haven't even scratched the surface yet.
I know. So this will be part one.
Story. How much longer do we have? Can I tell you one really funny story?
No, look, we can go for another half hour if you want to.
I don't mind.
Or another 15, 20 minutes, and then come back and do some other stuff.
Okay. But on the principle of what you're saying about attracting stuff, I when Rhonda Byrne, I met Rhonda Byrne years before she did The Secret with Stuart Wilde. She came to film Stuart Wilde at his events, and I was Stuart Wilde there. And it was really interesting because she manifested all of that, but she's definitely witchy. She's definitely witchy. So And the idea that people have of just putting this $10,000 check on their bed above their, so when they wake up in the morning, they see the $10,000 check. There's more to it than that. You do have to do more than that.
You have to take action.
You do. And on the action one day, like I had the opportunity to go to South Africa. Beautiful opportunity came up for me, and I was invited to go over there and work with the Zulu. And they actually got money from Norway, and these people from Norway were giving this charity money to buy the Zulu land in their own country, which they weren't allowed to buy for themselves. So yeah, it's crazy. You know, we think apartheid's dead. It's not.
No.
And yeah, so I was like, oh, I want to so be a part of this. And they went, well, you're going to need your airfares. You need somebody to accompany you. You're going to need some spending money while you're here. And they said, we estimate you probably need about $20,000 down. And it was just the wrong time to say that. So a friend of mine who was living with me at the time was like, yeah, you should go. You should go. We'll see. And he was a retired SAS officer. He was living with me. And he occasionally used to, if he needed a little extra money, he'd do a bit of bounty hunt. He'd go and find somebody that had evaded the law, and he'd go and find them and take them in and get the reward money, which does happen in Australia.
Yes.
So after a couple of beers, we're laughing and joking, and we're looking through the police wanted lists online. And it's like, yeah, sure, you know. And he's saying, oh, we could always go over and get, it was Osama bin Laden in those days. And he said, we can go and get him. He's $1 million. And I said, yeah, no. And so we're looking through this list, and we both stopped and took a deep breath in. And they're staring back at us with a reward of $20,000. Was one of my, and this guy his name was not Mike Ken.
Yeah.
Like, he never liked. He's like, oh, you know where he is. Let's go get him. Let's turn him in. He deserves it. He deserves it. and the universe, I think, gives you a moral right at some. You know, it's similar to what you do in your. You know, you get the opportunity to give a homeless person some change you got in your pocket, and you don't do it. And I just looked at Ken and I went, look, mate, no, I can't do this. I'm not doing this. He's going, but just tell me where it is, and I'll go get him for you. I'm going, no. I'm sorry. This is no. If he's got himself into trouble, that's his problem. It's not up to me to go and dob on him. Right?
Yeah.
And my friend Ken, the retired SAS guy who's now passed away, bless his cotton socks. Yeah, he just couldn't understand why I wouldn't hand an X over. By the end of the week, I got a phone call from these people in South Africa, and they went, you know what? We've just had one of our sponsors in Norway pay for you to come over. Here's your air ticket, here's your accommodation, and here's some spending money. Let's go.
Fantastic.
So the intention was there. I did put some effort into manifesting it, but I think the universe will sometimes as well for what you will and won't do, you know, for that money.
Yes.
And if you did the wrong thing, it would give you that money, but then it wouldn't give you anything else.
Yes, I hear you, and I agree with you.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I've had just an amazing life where things have gone from good to better to better to better for me. And I think it's because I do make those right decisions.
Yes.
You know? Look, sometimes sometimes in business, you know, people will be really upset with you if you don't do it.
Yes.
But there's always another way to make that money.
There is. And what you put out there, you get back. So I'm very conscious of that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm never going to encourage anybody to think unethical. But
check in with your moral compass, although some people may not have morals. But it's about doing good for yourself and others, isn't it?
Yes, it absolutely is. And you can manifest it, but maybe on the next show, we'll go through a few spells and things, because you're manifesting, you've got to build up your muscle. You've got to build up your magical muscle if you're going to manifest.
Yeah,
it's like being an athlete. You know, you're not going to win this particular race unless you've trained, right? So, and if we're going to get them to start manifesting stuff for themselves, then they've got to know the structure. They've got to know how to do this, and they've got a few exercises that they're going to have to do to build up their manifestation muscles.
I absolutely agree. And that's one of the things that I really encourage my rich community, and I have a little formula that I've shared many times, but we can talk about when we do the spell work. So that has been what we have shared, I think, is very, very valuable, and a very valuable starting point for many people. So have a think about it. And where can you create wealth for yourself with very practical steps or action taking? And we've given some of those tips here. And then, yes, next time we'll look at spells, which will be fabulous. And
but also the exercises they need to do before they even start the spells.
Yes, absolutely. So we can, do a few parts to this mini series that we seem to be creating here right now.
Fantastic. That sounds great.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything that you would like to say or share before we close off on this podcast call?
I guess, really there's two aspects to this. If you are really wanting to manifest money, you do have to live life in the vast lane, right? And realize that your life is vast and the opportunities are available to you. I mean, that doesn't mean overspending, being silly and getting yourself in strife. What that means is having a look at how vast your life already is and being grateful for it. Being able, realizing that you are able to be generous to other people, right?
Yes.
So because if you are generous with other people, you won't resent, because resentment is what kills your wealth. And no matter what, edit your speech, yourself, and don't cry poor. A spell is a word that stays. Right?
Yes, I always say your word, thoughts, feelings are your wand.
Yes, that's right. So if you are crying poor, if you are going, oh my God, this is terrible, I got another. If you are saying the things that are reinforcing on your subconscious, that you are in a bad way financially, then the universe will go, oh, okay, is that what you want? I'll give you more of that.
Absolutely.
So living in the vast lane, the very first thing we need to do is to watch our speech, right?
Yes.
Don't be resentful. Start to be generous with other people. So
and
we both have got it.
I call it reframing. And I learned to do this many years ago when I read a book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. And that was more than 30 years ago. And catching myself if I ever said, and sometimes I slip now, catching myself with what my words are and reframing them. And that's really important. So yes, mind your language.
Yeah. And this is also with regard to other people as well. Generosity doesn't have to just be giving the homeless guy in the street enough for a cup of coffee. It's also like if you see somebody else being successful, go, good on them. They deserve that.
Oh, yes.
That's generosity of spirit as well.
I agree.
And one thing that's always upset me with the pagan community is how bitchy that they can sometimes be when they see somebody else being successful. And I've always come out in defense of the people in the pagan community who are successful, because it's the people who are successful that allow these gains that we get in society. If they get the success, they get the recognition, it benefits us all.
It does. And if you find yourself a pagan, a witch, or however you like to term yourself, this woman of the modern world, be mindful, because I love cheering people on. I love raising people up, It gives me pleasure and joy to see people successful, and we take on some of that energy. And if you struggle to do that, then we have to always come back to the inner work. We have to really look at ourselves. If you can't be happy for somebody else for being successful and whatever that is for them, then we have to step back and reflect and recalibrate. and realign, because that's really important. And this is the thing about community, like, we're not here to work against each other. We are here to support each other and create the magic, not only for ourselves but for each other. And one thing, like the most simple thing, you know, I always say smiles are magical, is smile at somebody else, try to engage. And I do it so naturally now when I'm walking down the street and people smile back at me, that I actually haven't always realized that I'm just smiling at people. And then I think, oh, I must have been smiling, you know. Because it's something that I just have done for many, 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 many years, and I do it without thinking. And it's so nice to receive a smile back. And that is very simple. And perhaps
100% agree.
100%. Yeah. So perhaps on that note,
that's what a coven is, you know, a group of magical people working together to help each other.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I feel on that note, we complete this one, and I'm looking forward to the next one. So as soon as you're ready, Shé, I'm ready.
Okay, I'm giving you the thumbs up. They can't hear that, but there's a thumb for you.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you so much for joining me. I so appreciate it. And thank you to our audience. And I will put any details that Shé feels to share, to contact her, follow her, whatever, in the show notes. And we will be back. So until then, magical blessings to you all, and bye for now. Thank you for joining us on the enchanting journey through the realms of magic, mystique, and self-discovery. I hope you enjoyed our time together on the Rich Witch podcast, where we delve into the depths of witchcraft, astrology, and the unapologetic rise of women. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. And as we wrap up, I encourage you to carry the wisdom and magic we've shared into your own life. Embrace the power within you and revel in the beauty of your own unique journey. Stay tuned for more magic, and in the meantime, stay curious and know your magic is a gift to the world. Blessed be, beautiful ones, and remember, the magic is always within you. This is Julie Nelson, signing off.